Well, the US Secretary of State is in Israel to reassert American support. His visit follows the first shipment of US military aid that arrived in Israel on Wednesday. Blinken is also set to meet Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas in Jordan on Friday. Sarah Khairat reports from West Jerusalem.
Another US reassurance to Israel, this time face-to-face.
We're here, we're not going anywhere.
US Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu shake hands firmly, a show of solidarity between two countries whose alliance and friendship goes beyond politics. Building on his Jewish heritage and referencing bipartisan support for Israel, Blinken had this message.
You may be strong enough on your own to defend yourself, but as long as America exists, you will never, ever have to. We will always be there by your side.
Standing together in unity, Benjamin Netanyahu welcomed the US's help.
Mr. Secretary, your visit is another tangible example of America's unequivocal support for Israel. Hamas has shown itself to be an enemy of civilization.
US citizens and other foreign nationals were among those killed or captured during the attack on Israel by Hamas fighters on Saturday. Intelligence and military support from the US arrived on Wednesday in the form of the world's largest aircraft carrier, fighter jets, and other military aid. Blinken's visit and the formation of a so-called war cabinet under an emergency unity government is supported nationally in Israel. The United Nations and other nations, though, are urgently calling on the country to allow safe passage for people to leave Gaza. But for now, they have no way out, as Israel continues its bombing. Sarah Khairat, Al Jazeera, West Jerusalem.
Well, let's speak to Hoda Abdel-Hamid, who is outside the Knesset in West Jerusalem. And as we heard in that story there, the Israeli Prime Minister announcing the declaration of war, the formal declaration of war. Clearly, he's building a case for a full escalation or invasion, potentially, into Gaza. Is there any support? What is the support like within Israel for that?
I think it's kind of a mixed bag. I think that, and you could hear that or decipher that really from the words of the Prime Minister. He was basically going through this formality, as you said, but at the same time speaking to the Israeli public, saying that you cannot sit or talk with Hamas, and the only way forward is to get rid of the group and debilitate, or as in his words, annihilate the group, equating Hamas to ISIL. Now, how much support does he have? Israelis are known that in time of crisis, in time of difficult times, they sort of unite and stand together in solidarity. But the Prime Minister knows perfectly well that he's under a lot of scrutiny. And then once the dust settles, once this war is over, he will have to answer some very tough questions. I'm just going to give you the results of one poll that came out today. Well, according to 94% of those questioned, they believe that the government is responsible for the defense failure when it came to the Gaza Strip. And 84% put the blame of what unfolded on October 7th, that the day Hamas attacked southern Israel, on the failure of the political leadership, and 56% say that Netanyahu should go once the war is over. So there is a lot at stake here for the Prime Minister, whether it is for the survival of his political career or indeed his legacy.
Hoda, don't go anywhere, because I want to ask you about a shooting near Herod's Gate in occupied East Jerusalem that happened just a short time ago. Before we go to that, we're also listening in and seeing some huge explosions that are happening right now in Gaza. Clearly, Israel's bombardment continuing relentlessly this evening there in Gaza. We've seen it right throughout the day, huge big plumes of black smoke filling the sky. Now it is nighttime. You can only see smaller plumes and often orange and red flashes as the bombs continue to rain down on Gaza. OK, Hoda, I want to ask you again about this shooting that's happened near Herod's Gate in occupied East Jerusalem that happened just a short time ago.
Yes, it was all the information we have is from the Israeli police. Accordingly, there was an exchange of gunfire next to a police station. There would be a number of policemen that would have been wounded in that exchange of gunfire, but the Israeli police say that the attacker has been neutralized. Now, that's the word they use to say that indeed he has been killed. I think this is also one of the challenges the Prime Minister and his emergency unity cabinet have in mind, because with every day that passes, with those pictures of those huge explosions happening in Gaza, not very far from here, about an hour and a half drive from where we are, well, the mood among the Palestinians is one of increased anger. So keeping the cities inside the borders of Israel quiet is a huge challenge, and being able to really, I think that's one of the roles of this war cabinet, is also being able to make sure that all the resources are very well divided between the ongoing war in Gaza if there is a ground offensive, but also keeping the peace, or trying to keep the peace, inside the cities around the country and indeed along the northern border with Israel. So it's a very complicated situation, and with every day that passes and all this international support, you know, the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken in Tel Aviv earlier showing supports to Israel, the U.S. President Joe Biden also saying that there's unequivocal support to Israel without mentioning at all the Palestinians. All that would at some point increase the anger, and there could be a tipping point. And we have seen that in the past in a previous war just 2 years ago in 2021, when there was an eruption of intercommunal fighting between Israelis and Palestinian Israelis. So it is a very complicated situation, and such attack like the one that happened now could be followed by a reprisal attack from settlers that live also in occupied East Jerusalem, and then that becomes a vicious circle.
OK, thank you so much for that. That is Hoda Abdel-Hamid for us in West Jerusalem.